Welcome everyone to this MMORPG series. In this series, we'll be going over many different features to add to our MMORPG, including attacking, spawning, and an AI monster. We'll be going over XP and level ups. And then we'll go into damage-based weapons. So we'll be able to attack and change our damage based on the level of our, skill. We'll also be able to add range weapons, and then eventually we'll end with questing. Because as you know, questing is a big part of an RPG. So without further ado, let's head right into the first episode, and I hope to see you guys all in the next episode right after. In this video, we'll get started on our project and create some very simple attacking and respawn functions. So to get started, we'll hit create new game, and we're going to create a blank template. Reason being is because if you actually create any other template and try to use any other template, it's going to be incredibly difficult to understand and follow along the code and then even add on top of it. So we're going to create a blank template and go from there. So I'm going to rename this to YouTube MMORPG tutorial and hit create. And then we'll have to wait for a second. All right, once we have our world here, we're going to head over to the entities section and we're going to add a few environment things. So the first thing we need to add is actually a region. We need to add a spawn region. So in here, I've already gotten all the X coordinates and everything. So I can write in spawn X. I'm going to write in 545. This I'm going to write 1126. Width, I'm going to write 320 and 180. All right, so now we'll hit save. And now in the attributes, we're going to add one other useful variable here that we need. That is called respawn timer. We'll hit save, and now we have a respawn timer. So all the default ranges and numbers were fine, unless you want to change them later on. And I believe that is it. We have everything else by default that we need. So let's hit close. And now what we'll do is in the world script, in here, we're going to add a script that allows us to respawn. So let's create new script. And we'll go to the new script here. We'll say player respawns. Now in the actions, I'm going to create an if-else statement. Here we go. Now we see that there's a condition, then do, actions, actions, right? We only want the first two. So we'll click OK, and here we go. But obviously we need to add to our condition, right? So what do we need to have as our condition? Well, we want to compare the respawn timer to the attribute of our last triggered attribute. So for here, we can go to attribute, type comparison. Now for the attribute type of entity, which entity do we want? Well, we're going to do the last triggering attribute. So if we go in here, we'll go to attribute, last triggering attribute, we can just click OK, and there we go. Now for the attribute of type entity, we'll actually click this and we'll go to constant and select respawn timer. And that is it. So we can click OK, and there we go. Now for our do, we actually want to do two things. First, we need to create our player, and then we need to set the camera for it. So let's create, we're going to create unit at position. So we're going to create unit type, which is just going to be the homie. And then for the player, we're going to write functions, last triggering player, and then at the position. So we have to pick a position. Now the position, we'll actually make it random. So we can say random position in region. And then in the region, you have a few options. You can either do the spawn or you can do the entire map region. So in the functions, you can just type in entire map region. So let's click OK, And then the angles, we'll just do 0. This will allow us to face down, I believe. And then we'll create a new action. And now we need to make player camera to track a unit. So we'll track the last triggering player, which is the homie, and then the camera's track unit. So for that, we'll do last created unit. There we go. Click OK, and there we go. This is our respawn timer, or our respawn script. Now, for the trigger, we do need a trigger. So we have to say when a player's attribute becomes full. And this will become full because our respawn timer will become full. We'll end up changing our respawn timer. So this will be useful for later. Now let's add a new script. And this script is going to spawn boxes. Now you might be wondering, though, we don't have any boxes. Well, that's okay, because we'll actually do that just now, in just a second. So it's in our units. Let's go over here to the right and click New. We'll do Unit. You'll see why in a second, why I'm doing Unit. We'll do Collider Object. Now in here, we're going to have a few things. We're going to scroll down a little bit, and we're going to change the inventory size to 5, and then backpack size to 12. And then here, we'll obviously write box. And then obviously we want to give it a box. We'll do small wooden crate. And then let me just check everything is good. In the controls, we'll take all these out because we don't need any of that. And I think that is it. So now we can just hit save and apply. Now we have a box, but we have a bunch of scripts to it that we don't actually need. So in our box script, let's go into this, and we can actually delete folder, I believe. And that will delete everything. Now we'll create a new script called death. Now in here, we'll add a trigger when this entity's attribute becomes 0 or less. So that's the health, right? So this will detect if an attribute, which is most likely going to be the health, is less than 0. So in the actions, we can add an if-else statement, and we'll want to check if the last triggered attribute, which is going to be the health most likely, is equal to health. So what we'll do is we'll say we want to do an attribute type comparison, and we'll select the entity. We'll do last, here we go, sorry, attribute, last triggering attribute, click OK, and then the attribute of the type, we actually want to just select constant and the health. So this will select the health of the box itself. Let's click OK, and now in the do, it's actually very easy. We just say destroy entity, and the entity we want to destroy is, we want to go into functions, and we say this entity of the entity script. Yeah. So we click OK, and this will destroy our box if it has health that is lower than 0 or is equal to 0, right? Now we can save. Now we need a way to actually reduce the health, right? So let's go into our items and select new. We'll do new item. We'll do melee weapon. We'll give it a sprite of a bronze sword. And here we can name this to bronze sword. And now we have to actually allow it to do some things though. So if we scroll down, we can actually also give this a description. We say this powerful bronze sword will do 25 damage. However, it doesn't do 25 damage. So how do we change that? Well, in the effects, sorry, not the effects, the weapon, we can go to unit attributes and change this to 25. So we save that. Now if we scroll up to effects, we can scroll down to the on use, and we can select tween and swing clockwise. So this is swing clockwise, and this is counterclockwise. So you can kind of make your pick of these animations, but I'm going to hit, I think that's it, other than the server client here. And the lifespan when dropped, we can actually make sure that it does eventually get destroyed by giving it a long lifespan. And that is it. So we can save and apply. However, our player doesn't start with the weapon. So if we actually head over to our homie and scroll down, we can see the default items. We can scroll down again and select a bronze sword. Now, if I save and apply, and I actually republish the game, you can now see that I spawn with a sword. However, if I move around, there's no boxes. So I have two options. Either I can add them in manually by going over here to the entities tool and then go to box and start adding them in, or I can add them through code. So let's add it through code so we know how to do that. So let's head over to our scripts, and we'll add a new script. Oh, actually we don't have to because we already have it, sorry. Forgot that we made it. So in our spawn boxes, this is going to trigger every second. You'll see why in just a second. So in actions, we're going to say, we're going to add a while loop. In the condition, we're going to check if the number of boxes is less than 10 or some sort of number. We're going to do 10. So we need a number comparison. So this needs to be less than or equal to, and we'll change this to 10. And now the question is, how do we get the number of units? Well, that's actually easy. If we click this, we can go to functions and then just type in number of units of this type. But now we need to pass through which type, right? Which is the box. Now we can just click OK, OK, and OK, and then OK. Now this will check if the number of boxes is less than 10. Right? So it says some weird stuff, but it should be less than 10. Right? So now, if it is less than 10, well, what do we want to do? We want to create more boxes. So we'll create a unit at position. And now we can create a unit type. So we can say create box for the AI player. And then at position, we want a random position. So we can say random position in region. And the region, we're going to do the entire map. We're not going to do the spawn, obviously. We want to do the entire map. So click OK, click OK, and then facing 0, that's OK. And that's it. So now if I save and apply, there we go. We see a bunch of AIs. And now, leave, I have to hit play. And now I can kind of attack them and move them around, right? However, you see that they get destroyed, but there's no health bar. So we want to show the health bar. So if we go to the boxes, the box here, and I believe it will be, it's actually in the attribute itself. So if we want to show a health bar or show or hide or whatever, we actually go into the attributes itself, so health, and we select all these. And then make sure it's true. And that is it. And we can actually change the color if you'd like, but I'll leave it as the default. And we can hit save, save and apply. And now you can see they all have health. So let's play and move towards them. And if we hit it, you can now see that their health gets reduced. And then obviously they get destroyed as well. So yeah, you can hit multiple objects and destroy them. And you see every second, they'll always make sure there's 10 in the map. All right, that's it for this video, and I'll see you guys later. All right, welcome back everyone. We're going to continue on, and in this video, or in this part, we're going to implement our AI. We're going to implement an actual monster that will attack us, kill us, and then we'll respawn, and then those monsters can also respawn. So let's jump right into this. We're going to head over to the Entities tab, and I do want to point out I did change a few things. So in the player types, I now have 4 different player types. Some of these are for the future, but some of them are for this video or this part. So we're going to need hostile creeps, human players, and neutral creeps, I believe. And inside of each of these, I've set the hostile to, I'll kind of just show you. So hostile creeps, hostile, hostile. And then the human player is neutral for everything. And then the neutral creeps is hostile and hostile to creeps and players. And then resources obviously is neutral because, I mean, it's a resource, right? All right, and then we're going to need in our environment 3 other things that I've also changed. So AI hostile, AI neutral, AI resources, and then computer 1, 2, and 3. And then make sure that these are all player. And then attributes in our respawn timer, we're actually going to get a hover here or head over here. And in the regenerative speed, we're going to set this to 5. So we didn't do that the first time, so now we're going to do that. All right, so let's save that and let's exit. And now let's head over to our units tab. And what we'll do is we can actually either duplicate this or just create a new unit, but I'll create a new unit so we know how to do this. So we'll go to a top-down unit, and in our change cells unit, we're going to head over to the zombie, or obviously you can pick whatever you'd like, but I'm going to make a zombie and I'm going to call this zombie. And now I'm going to head over to the scripts because we actually don't need any of these scripts. So let's delete these. Oh, wait. Shit. That's not what we want to do. We want to save and apply, and then go to the zombie scripts and delete those. Yeah, there we go. Sorry about that. Sorry about my language. We don't want to delete the homie script. That would be silly. All right, so let's save the zombie script. Now we have nothing in our zombie script, but let's head over back to the zombie. And let me correct this and actually type that properly. Now we're going to need some animations. So in the animations tab, we're going to head over here and add a new animation. I'm going to call this idle. And then in our idle, we're going to add a frame, and we're going to select this frame. So it's idle, right? Now we're going to add another animation and call this chase or run or whatever you'd like. I'm going to select this one. And obviously, if you had more frames for your own frame set, you can select multiple, and give it loop count, frames per second, etc. So obviously for this one, it's just one frame, so I'm not going to set anything else. All right, now in the inventory size, I'm going to set that to 1. And now the most important part is the AI tab. We need to enable this. Now in here, we're going to set the response to fight. We're going to set the idle behavior to wander. We're going to set the attack range to 10 and the flee to 1000. And then we're going to set this to fight. And then in the effects, we're going to set some of the, animations, right? So on attacked, we're actually going to make sure that he recoils. So when we attack the zombie, it'll recoil. Now on create, we don't need anything. On destroy, we don't have any animations for that. On idle, we'll go to the animation and select idle. On move, we'll select chase, and that is it. We don't have anything else to really put, but of course, if you have other animations and stuff, you would put them in here, right? So I believe that is it for the settings. Actually, in the control tab, we'll delete all the controls. We don't need any of these. And then the rest of these are good, so we'll save and apply. Now, obviously, we have two different ways of adding these zombies. Either we can do this in the map tab and go over here to the right to the entities tool and start adding them in. But to be honest, this is not a very good way of doing this. In fact, we won't even really use this. Sometimes it's good for testing, but again, it's not a great way of doing it. So let's head back to the entities tab. We'll go to play and then entities. So that way we're a bit more zoomed in. Now in the world tab, I have this spawn units. Now what is this? Well, I believe what we'll also do, I think we actually already did this, but in the box script, we want to take our death script, and we're actually going to do this. We're going to copy, over here, copy script. Now let's close our box script. And what I'll do is I'm going to right click over here and paste script. Now this, we're going to change the death script a little bit, because what we're going to do in here is we're going to change it to units death or unit deaths, like that. So this will check for any unit that dies. So this will now apply to anything that dies. So it's not just the homie, it's not the player, everything. So anything that has health that becomes less than 0, we'll kill it or we'll destroy it, right? So when a unit attribute becomes 0, well, that's a problem. That's not unit, that's entity. So let's change this to when this, I think it's when a unit attribute becomes 0 or less, and we can delete this one because we want the units attribute. We want to check for a units attribute, not just entities, right? All right, so if you just real quick, the difference is though that the units are just everything, right? All the units. Now the entity is one specific entity, and this wouldn't even run or work because this is the world script, right? So if you want the entity thing to work, it would have to be inside of an entity. Now inside of the attribute, we can actually keep this, and then we can keep this. However, what we want to do is add an if-else statement in here. And in the condition, here, let's just add this first. Now, in the condition, we want to check for which type of unit we're killing, right? So at this point, we can now say, inside of here, we'll do unit type comparison. So we're going to compare the unit to, a unit that we want. So the unit type of entity in here, we'll select homie. Oh, no, sorry. Nope, that is wrong. In here, we'll select last. Wait, let's cancel that real quick. Oh, we have to select unit, and then here we go. Last triggering unit, like that. So we have to make sure we select in there, and we click OK, and then we compare it to the unit itself. So we'll change this to homie. There we go. That makes a lot more sense. All right, so now we have a unit type comparison between the last triggering unit, which is whatever unit got triggered in this event, and then we're going to check if it's the homie. If it is, well, we could just add this in here, but what we can do is we can actually just add this over here because we don't really care what type of unit it is. We're going to destroy it regardless. However, for the unit type homie, we need to add or make the respawn timer go off. And we can do that by saying set variable. Just check my reference here. Now in here, the set variable, we'll make this the respawn timer, which I might not have selected the wrong one. I think it's set, let me check. Sorry, set player attribute value. There we go. Now in this attribute type, we'll select the respawn timer, and then we'll go to the player, and we're going to actually select owner of unit, and then the unit will be the last triggering unit. And then we're going to set this to 100. Oh no, sorry, 0. So default to 0, and it will count from 0 to 100. So if you remember from the, not the player type, the environment inside of here, the respawn timer will count by 5. So it'll go 0, 5, 10, etc., all the way to 100, right? Or no, sorry, should go to 100, yeah. That's the initial value, but yeah, the range is 0 to 100. All right, so that's how we respawn. However, there should be one more thing we need to do, which is in our AI, let's head back to the logic of our AI. We need to spawn a monster or a way for it to attack. So in our items, we're going to head over to new item. We're going to give it a range or melee weapon, sorry. And in here, we can, I think, go to number 4, yeah, and find melee attack, or you could just search it up. Now in here, I don't actually think we need to do much. We just need to make sure that we change the name to melee attack. In our controls, there's nothing here. In weapon, actually in here, we'll change the range a little bit to 23 or 28, sorry. And here you could change the health damage, the amount of damage that it will do, but that's, I don't really care about that. And I believe that is it. Yeah, so let's save and apply. Let's head back to our zombie and head down to default items, and we're going to select the melee attack. Now let's save and apply. Now, in order for our respawn timer to work properly, actually, we need to go to, let me just double check here. Yeah, we need to go to player types, go to human players, and give it an attribute. That attribute is the respawn timer. And in here, we can just click OK. Everything's already set by default. And that's it. So we save, and we can close this. And now one last thing is we need to actually spawn the zombies. So let's duplicate this. So we'll copy, paste, and then move this out over here. So while the number of unit boxes is less than 10, that's not right. We want to change this to unit of zombie. Click OK. And then same thing over here. We don't want to create boxes. We want to create zombies. We can just click OK, save and apply. And now we'll republish the game. You can already see they're being spawned, but we'll save and reapply or publish. All right, and now you can see the AI zombies. Now let's see if they attack us. And they don't, which sometimes happens, which means we mess something up. So let's head back to the entities. Let's go to the zombie. Now, one thing we forgot to do is in the health, let's actually make sure that these are all open. And then in the, I believe we might not have given it the hostile. So let's save this and double check our code. In the initialize, we're saying AI hostile to resources, which is not right. This should be the hostile creeps. Yeah, that should be right. Take a look at our player respawns. Although this shouldn't affect anything. All right, let's try saving this, and then we'll republish one more time. All right, there we go. Yeah, so we've made sure that we assigned the proper thing, and now he's attacking us. And once we die, nothing happens, meaning we messed something up one more time. So let's take a look. What did we mess up? Okay, so I just realized we actually, in our death unit, we didn't change the destroy this entity. So we don't want to change this entity because that doesn't make sense. We can't destroy the world. We destroy the last triggering entity. So we have to change this to last triggering unit. So last triggering unit, click OK, save and apply one more time. Let's publish, and this should 100% work. And this would have actually errored for the zombies as well. So all right, we're back in, and we'll see if we die. And there we go, we die, and we should respawn in just a few seconds. There we go. We respawned. Let's see if the zombies die. Awesome. That works. And it should have respawned. It's hard to see, but it will have respawned most likely. So you can test this by killing all the zombies, and then you'll see that there's an endless loop of zombies, and you can't actually kill them all. All right, so that is it for this video, and I will see you guys in the next part.